Welcome into the Atlanta Sports Party, your home for the best Atlanta sports talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere else but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Maria Martin. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. This Atlanta Sports Party is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up later, we'll dive into Falcons and we'll take you around the metro. But first, let's get this party started with our top three. Now, guys, it's kind of one of those days where two things can be the same. You can be excited and sad all at one time. And that's because we got the word yesterday that the Angels hired Ron Washington as their new manager. Uncle Ronnie is parting ways with the Braves after 7 seasons. But guys, Maria, what impact will this have on Braves players, the clubhouse, and really just the franchise overall and Braves country?
Look, I think it's massive. I've been around this team really closely over the last 4 years. It's such a devastating loss for this franchise. Now, granted, you said two things can be true. You can say it's a really bad loss, and you can be really excited because at 71 years old, he is currently going to be the oldest manager in all of baseball. I'm excited for him. He's been ready for this and working for this for a long time. But to be somewhere in 7 years, obviously your impact is going to be felt from the top down. I saw Mark Bowman tweeting out a quote from Alex Anthopoulos a couple of days ago. And he said that he will never be around someone like this again in his career. His charisma, everything about him is so infectious. And the way that he's been able to impact the infield and the way that he's been able to level up a lot of those guys' games, you've seen Austin Riley improve significantly under Ron Washington. Same with Matt Olson and Ozzie Albies, even Vaughn Grissom. He has done things with these guys to really elevate them to the next level, something that I think is going to be really hard to replace. It's hard to name one person that you think of off the top of your head because Ron was a little bit of everything. So I think it sucks. And Braves fans love him. Anytime I tweeted out a fungo drill with Ron Washington and whoever named the player fill in the blank, people would just go crazy for it. I didn't even have to say anything. Hey, look, wash drills on the field, and people would go nuts. So I think this is huge. I'm really sad and can't wait to see what the Braves do at that position. But wow, it sucks for sure.
It does. It really, really does. And our buddy Kelly Kroll probably said it best in her tweet yesterday. He's one of one. I mean, he's really
For
so
sure.
singular in that way. And I can remember going to the game when after, of course, the Braves won the World Series, they come back the next season and they're having their official ring ceremony. And the loudest cheers were for Ron Washington. I mean,
Yeah.
he just has had such an impact. And he's that guy who I think there was one of his former players on MLB Network said just yesterday that he's the type of guy that when you play in Atlanta, you kind of come out at 11:30 for home games for drills. But Ron Washington's already been out there for 3 hours doing his thing and getting ready to get you ready. And he's the
Yeah.
guy that players also say, whether you are a veteran or whether you are fresh from the farm system, he treats every player with the same amount of dignity and respect and treats every player like they have that much more potential to be able to do whatever it is that they came to do. So yeah, quite the loss for the Braves organization. One of those where we know what it is, but I think you almost have to see him gone to really understand the impact. And you think about what he was able to do with the Rangers as far as taking them to their first World Series appearances in the 8 seasons that he was there. Everybody around Major League Baseball says this is long overdue. And with a team like the Angels, that in all likelihood, Jarvis, is going to be a franchise that'll be looking to potentially rebuild should they lose, like a Shohei Ohtani, for example. He's the kind of guy that can get you, A, to rebuild probably faster than you want to, and B, set you up for success, even if he's only around for the 2 years that they granted in his contract, or if he decides to stick around there longer. But yeah, a little bit of a sad or melancholy day in our Braves country on Wednesday.
It's kind of like a two-parter for me, T and Maria, because when you think about, like, I'm sad because like I literally started calling him Uncle Run, and it seemed like the nickname started, catching on. Not that I'm trying to take credit for it or anything like that, but just saying, like, that's just the vibes that he gives off, right? Because everybody used to go to him and like say, hey, how can I get better? In the field, Austin Riley and the guys you mentioned, like I was just specifically kind of just really kind of drawn to him because when you get into that professional world of sports, like it's one thing from college for coaches to be able to have, or to have that type of effect on you, but when you get onto that professional level, a lot of it is the professional athletes are drawn to guys that they can learn stuff from, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why you hear rifts between coaches and players in the NFL or in Major League Baseball. It's because, hey, you're being hard on me and you're not teaching me anything. So for all these guys to speak glowingly like about Ron Washington, it just kind of goes to show you that the dude is a teacher,
Yeah.
and people are drawn to him not only because he had the charisma, but they are learning stuff. They are learning things from him that they can't get from anywhere else. And I just absolutely, and it just sucks. On the other side of it is, why did it take him 9 years to get another opportunity?
Yeah.
2014, you had 2 World Series appearances with the Rangers. Obviously, they weren't able to get it done, but he took them to the World Series twice in 8 years. And for him to be going to a situation like you just pointed out, T, well, to the Angels where there's so much uncertainty. Are they going to re-sign Shohei Ohtani? How long Mike Trout going to be around? Because like you paying all this money as an owner, I'm paying all this money and I'm not getting the return on my investment, right? Because everybody still thinks we suck and I'm paying this dude hundreds of millions of dollars. So it kind of reminds me of the situation, and I hope the end result kind of plays out the same way, specifically of the Houston Astros. Big time cheating scandal.
Right.
You know, the hot doggone prospects to come in to be the manager. They weren't taking their job. Oh, let's call Dusty. Let's see if he can doggone come in and do something. And then he ends up winning the World Series. So I hope that the Angels somehow changes some things around and take care of Uncle Ron and give him the assets that he needs to be able to be successful there so they can get a championship. They can get that World Series that they've been seeking out or they've been paying the money for, get their return on their investment. So, yeah, like it's a two-parter for me. I'm sad that he's gone, but, man, I'm fired up because it shouldn't have taken this long, and I hope the Angels take care of him.
And I think they will, because there was a stretch during this past season where the Angels actually looked like, hey, we may not be sellers at the trade deadline like people thought, because there was a stretch where they actually started to look good. So if maybe there's a building block there, and that stretch didn't necessarily have Shohei Ohtani at his level best, if there's maybe a building block there, then yeah, I'm excited that maybe they'll try to build on top of that building block from that little stretch from last season and give Ron Washington something to work with. Now, Jarvis, I will tell you what may have made all of us feel some type of way, didn't make us happy. I don't know if it made us sad, just kind of made us scratch our head and feel some type of way. What's up with Georgia being number 2 again? Now, listen. We understand that it's only the second ranking that's come out from the College Football Playoff Committee this season, but sometimes it just feels like there's just this disrespect thing that's going on with the Dogs, like every single year, until the Dogs just kind of have to show up and eat everybody's lunch. I don't know. Who knows? But what do you think when you look back at last week, especially because Ohio State, I mean, you beat Rutgers for crying out loud, but Georgia, you actually beat a ranked team, I think number 12 at the time in Missouri from the CFP. That was their ranking. And yet, what is it going to take for them to get voted number 1? I mean, what's up with that?
I think it's a game at night, against a number 10 ranked team in the country. I think that might suffice, with the spicy head coach at Lane Kiffin, because a lot of times like it's a week to week thing, because Ohio State has Michigan State. That's a bum team. That's an easy win this week. And I think that, Michigan has a pretty solid matchup in Penn State, and we know Ohio State beat them. So I think there's some weight value this week that I think we might see a change. But I think all in all, like we've had conversations we talked about on the Atlanta Football Party when we talking dogs, so and that is our expectations and standards are very high for the Bulldogs because they've won back-to-back national championship and they're going for a third in a row. So I think the committee kind of holds them to that as well. So I think that as we go along, as we, as the Bulldogs go have these certain matchups, like they got, Ole Miss this week, and then you got Tennessee. I think those are pretty weighted. Tennessee, I think they're number 14 right now. So there's some, you're talking about 3 consecutive ranked teams beating them. Like at some point, you're going that number 1 spot is going to have that red and black. And I think that it's going to come. But I think the committee is kind of like, okay, let's prove it. Let's see how good you really are. I think they're in that mode, and they're not holding that same standard to teams like Ohio State.
Right. And not that there ever needs to be any motivation for Dog Nation, Maria, and that, they would never admit it. But come on now, this kind of is a little bit of motivation. But I do think this could be a show and prove type of game because unlike last week, where the Dogs had the challenge of dealing with a mobile quarterback and dealing with probably more RPOs than maybe they'll have to deal with this week, they've got an opportunity to show that the run game, because we know their secondary is their strength, but they have an opportunity to really put that run game in check with a pretty decent two-headed monster in the running back core for Ole Miss. So maybe this is the week where they kind of show, okay, fine, if you're looking for validation that we are the number one team in this country, maybe we'll show you by just really stuffing this run game and showing you that Ole Miss ain't it.
Yeah, look, and I think that's going to be really tough to do if you're Georgia. And that's not because I graduated from the University of Mississippi. I think Ole Miss has the best running back in the country. And Quinshon Judkins, he's incredible. He's a Pike Road kid from Alabama. He was so underrated coming out of high school, and he's just exploded. And when you think about Georgia being the number 2 country, I vehemently disagreed with that ever since they put it out initially 2 weeks ago. And I think they put a little bit too much weight on the Notre Dame win for Ohio State because Notre Dame is kind of showing they're not as good as maybe we thought they were. And going back to Georgia's scheduling a little bit, everyone looking at it heading into the season said this is such a winnable schedule. It's very easy. It's more or less a cakewalk for the rest of the year. Well, that hasn't necessarily been true. Missouri's better than we thought they were going to be. Tennessee is better than we thought they were going to be. And Ole Miss is way better than anyone thought they would be. Who would have thought that they've only lost 1 game to a good Alabama team at this point in the season? Wouldn't be me. Wouldn't be anybody else. So I think that Georgia should be the number 1 team in the country. They've reeled off 26 straight wins. They're back-to-back national champions. I don't think there's any reason to put them at number 2. That being said, those rankings right now don't matter. It's just a good conversation piece. It's fun to talk about, fun to stir the pot a little bit. But I think that Georgia shouldn't be concerned, especially if they can get it done at night between the hedges. I personally think they can and will win this game, but Ole Miss is going to score. They're going to score a lot of points because if they can't hurt you on the ground, they do have a really good quarterback that'll get back there and throw the football. Now, Ole Miss's weakness is their secondary, and Georgia can pick that apart. So I think that if Georgia can show up and show a very valuable win and convincing win, which we haven't seen a lot, and I think that's what the committee looks at, is that Georgia hasn't had a ton of convincing wins. To me, a win is a win, and they're winning against good football teams and better teams than what we thought initially at the beginning of the year. I think Georgia should be number 1, and should they give you a convincing win between the hedges on Saturday night, I think that they should go back to number 1 for sure.
And watch out, leaky secondary for the Rebels, because guess what? Brock Bowers is lurking in the shadows. So we'll see what happens with 19 come Saturday, because there's some possibilities there. But in the meantime, if you want to take control of your health, before we do a deep dive into the Falcons, Jarvis wants to tell you guys about Jase Medical.
Folks, listen up. Jarvis Davis here for Jase Medical. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm the type of guy. I'm a father. I have kids. And we have emergencies that come up. And the one thing about Jase Medical, they are going to be able to get you prepared for those situations, because you don't want to be in a situation where you need maybe some antibiotics or anything like that, and you don't have them. So here's what Jase is going to do for you, right? They provide 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes is get it to Jase case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians, and they'll get you straightened right up. I'm telling you, guys, this is the place where you need to get bored. So don't get caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones doing the unexpected, because I know I'm going to look out for my daughters. So I'm going to make sure that I have exactly what I need just in case of an emergency. So, guys, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to jasemedical.com. That's jasemedical.com. and enter code locked on at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. Yes, locked on. jasemedical.com, LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount. And I'm telling you, all you got to do is go to jasemedical.com.
Falcons looking to stop a little bit of a skid and stop the bleeding when they take on the Cardinals this Sunday. But Maria, one of the issues that is reared its ugly head yet again this season that we've seen the past couple of seasons is these red zone woes. We're talking about a team that literally has only even gotten to the red zone 28 times in the first 8 games this season. Some would say that it's about play calling. Some would say it's about execution. But let's go with the play calling to kind of start, if you will. Simpler red zone play calling might be a must because, man, did Arthur Smith get torched about the call with this jet sweep and John Smith. That did not go well. Now, of course, we know if it had worked, it would have gone otherwise. But anyway, it is what it is. What do you think is going to be the antidote in terms of Arthur Smith eliminating those scoring woes and helping that, or using that to be an impetus for getting to a win this week?
I think they got to go with one thing in the red zone and stick to it. You know, they're really trying to be a little too complicated in the red zone. And like you said, 28 trips, they've only scored on 14 of those. So they're scoring on 50% down there. It's not good. Obviously, you can't be 100%. That's never going to happen in the NFL, but you want to be better than 50. And you know, I'm going to give Arthur Smith credit for a second, which I haven't done a lot recently. So when I was there on Wednesday, and he was asked specifically about the usage of Bijan Robinson or lack thereof in the red zone, he kind of danced around it, never really gave a direct answer, started saying, you know, the typical, hey, we have a lot of guys that can play and whatever. He just didn't really directly answer it. However, I was listening to 92.9 The Game on the way home, and they were kind of hounding him a little bit and going at him and say, hey, is it being too cute in the red zone? Can you say it? And he said, honestly, yeah, I could say that for 2 of the times. So the fact that he even admitted it, I think is a good thing. He's never really going to do that in front of television cameras. Everyone has learned that to this point. But if you can get him off camera, he does open up a little bit. And I think that's important because they have gotten too cute down there. I didn't necessarily agree with everyone being really disappointed that Tyler Algier was getting a lot of the touches last week there. I think that's fine. He had the hot hand. You go with the guy that does. But yeah, you want to get Bijan Robinson involved more. You don't draft a guy 8th overall to let him just not be there in the red zone when he can get the football over the goal line. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to a lot of people watching either. I think it is the play calling in the red zone specifically. And look, you have a great opportunity at Arizona. I was reading an article that someone in Arizona wrote, and they said the Falcons could get hot in the red zone. I was like, I don't know what y'all are watching, but I don't see anything that indicates that they could get hot in the red zone. The only way that I think that is possible is if they do eliminate getting cute. I understand there's playmakers all over the place for this team, but you have specific amounts of guys who were brought onto this team to put the football into the end zone. And those are not named Jonnu Smith. He's a great player. I think he's incredible. He can do certain things for you. However, I think that it's just gotten a little convoluted, and Arthur Smith sometimes wants to be the genius in the red zone. And I'm not saying he's not a genius offensively, but it's just gotten too cute. And it's so frustrating to watch when you know that they can score and they've been there and they're right there. And now they have a quarterback who's driving down the field and giving you opportunities if he's not throwing an interception like he did last week. But, you know, you can score in the red zone, and they have a good opportunity against this Arizona defense who they are allowing touchdowns 54% of the time in the red area. So you have an opportunity, get down there, quit being cute, pound the football over the goal line.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical point for me because Maria, was one who was pounding the pavement for Tyler Algier. Like, where is he? Get him in. Yeah, I understand that you drafted Bijan Robinson and he's a special talent, but a lot of times it's all about, like you said, that ground and pound, especially when you get into that lower red zone. That's where the magic happens for guys like him. And even to an extent, we saw last season more often than not this season because he's been kind of banged up with Cordero Patterson. But my thing is this: if you're going to get cute in the red zone, I need it not to be, like you said, a Jonnu Smith type of cute, right? I need you to get cute with things that actually make sense, where you're looking at high percentage plays and you're saying, hey, if I don't pick the highest percentage play, which may be that just run it up the gut with your big guy, get behind your O-line and see what happens. What about the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth high percentage plays that yield a result? I think that's also the definition of too cute that kind of gets you these red zone woes, Jarvis. I think it goes back to some things that actually I think Calais Campbell said it. Granted, talking about defense at the end of last week's game, but it's about going back to basics, right? And so not just the team executing on the basics, but also the coaching staff putting this team in position to be able to utilize basic things that have, I don't know, imagine this. yielded results in the red zone to get you a score that's not on the foot of Younghoe Koo, but is actually in the hands of one of your playmakers.
Yeah. And the basics are for me is play action, run the football. Sounds pretty simple, right? Because here's the thing: like on that play specifically, the jet sweep with Jonnu Smith, it's just like you had Kyle Pitts lined up in line, right? So with his hand in the dirt, Danielle Hunter was lined up over him. So Kyle Pitts is responsible for blocking Danielle Hunter. It's just the situation that you're putting these guys in that you spent all this draft capital on. Because my whole thing is, and I know people are going to get tired of me bringing this up, if you're just going to use these cats as a decoy,
right?
That's telling me that you didn't really have no plan for them in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, go draft the defensive rookie of the year. Well, you ain't got to come with no game plan. Just throw him out there and he's just going to eat and do what he needs to do and be the defensive rookie of the year in Jalen Carter. If that's the case, because my whole thing is like, there's a reason why you drafted 3 consecutive pass catchers, right, in the first round. You want to have this dynamic offense. You want to be able to say, you know what? When we turn around and hand the football off, we're going to get some yards. And hey, and then you spent the money, invested it on the right side of the offensive line. And you showed that you had some success with it to get down there to the tune of what, 10 consecutive runs or whatever? You know,
11.
So 11. So 11 consecutive runs. So what are we really talking about here? Here's a call, coach. I'm not an offense coordinator, but I'm a football dude. Guess what? Line up in the same formation that you've been using to get down there and put that bad boy in the stomach, pull it back out, and then find Kyle Pitts. Because guess what? Nobody's going to complain about you play action and hand the football off or faking to Bijan Robinson and then throwing to Kyle Pitts for a touchdown. Who's going to complain about that? Nobody. So, yeah, I think it's like, I'll never forget, like first day I reported in Chapman College, the defense coordinator was writing on the board and everything, and he wrote KISS on the whiteboard. And everybody was kind of looking around like, okay, what is this? You know, he trying to be funny or something like that. And then he just looked at everybody with the stoic look that he used to give off to us and said, keep it simple, stupid. That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to win some games. And I think that's what Arthur Smith needs to do in the red zone. Like, keep it simple. It's football is not hard. Like our colleague says, T, football is easy. Coaches make it hard. Like, don't overthink it once you get down there. Because, yeah, it's okay to get cute. Yeah, you can get cute when you doggone 65, 70% in the red zone. But when you're 50%, you got to keep it simple. Because those guys were flying up when you start running the football, and y'all still were able to have some success. So when you get into the red zone, it's just as easy to just stick it in his gut, pull it back out. I promise you, somebody's going to be open.
Yeah, it's not.
Let me say one thing real quick. Just one thing. Like, playing devil's advocate for a second, keep it simple, stupid works, and it should work for this team. I think the only way that you get cute is if you don't have the playmakers and there is an excuse for the cute play calling.
Yeah.
Look at the roster. There is no reason why you should be getting creative in the red zone. Okay, that's great, but you have the guys to do it in simple play calling. That's what drives me crazy. It drives me crazy every Sunday. Why are you not going to the guys that you've invested in? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because you look at a team last week in the Vikings where maybe they had to be a little bit more creative because of the situation they found themselves in, not with, the first quarterback, but with the next quarterback and then the next quarterback. So you're kind of juggling, you're scrambling. This is a squad that's actually been together. Now we're talking preseason, off season, in midway through this season. There really is no need for that. And I think it's one of those where you even hope that they're going to get back to basics on the defensive side of the ball, because you got an opportunity here. You got Kyler Murray potentially coming back, and he's going to be, I'm going to say rusty, and I'm being nice about that. But yeah, he's not going to actually be an all-world or a world beater, if you will. And you really need to level set, because the other piece is this. If you go into, again, going back to the bye week, if you go in on a winning note, who cares whether you win it by 1 point, or who cares if you win it by 10? But what you do care about is resetting your identity so that you can take that identity into the buy. And then when you come back out, you're all guns blazing, trying to get to the win of the division here in the NFC South. So, yeah, we'll be looking to see exactly what Arthur Smith employs and if he gets back to basics to get this win on Sunday. Now, listen, we'll talk a little bit more, obviously, about football on the other side from the sports party. And we've got some really, really fun and funny things to talk to you about around the Metro. But before we go there, Jarvis is going to give you a little bit of intel about FanDuel.
Listen up, folks. Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. Hey, the NFL season is rocking and rolling. And if you haven't gone to this website, what the heck are you waiting on? What's the website, Jarvis? I'm going to give it to you. Calm down. FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel.com/locked on. That is the website you need to go to because guess what? FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook in the entirety of the United States of America. I need you to go there right now because guess what, guys? For new customers, like I said, if you haven't gone to a FanDuel, new customers are going to get $150 in bonus bets when you place a winning $5 bet on the money line. Yes, that's all you gotta do. Place a $5 bet. You win that bad boy, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used to bet on spreads, the player props, the over-unders, all of that stuff, guys. They have so many options waiting just for you. So why don't you go to FanDuel.com/locked on? FanDuel.com/locked on. That's LOCKEDON. FanDuel. And I'm telling you, it's super safe. You got to worry about anybody getting your information or anything like that. It's secure, easy to use. I'm telling you, just a couple taps and you'll be in the game, ready to try to win some money on the #1 sportsbook. Is FanDuel, and it's the official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL.
PA great, and of course, Steeler Nation great. Hines Ward is, of course, loving his life coaching, his life after being on the field. However, I think we can all attest to this. There's that one dream job or that one situation we'd love to be in, and it's no different from him. He spoke with Sports Media UGA yesterday, and they asked him the question, what would you do if Kirby Smart called you tomorrow and said, hey, come coach between the hedges? And Hines said, quote, I'll quit whatever I'm doing. I'm coming here. I would love to come back. So Jarvis, got to ask you the question, whether it's a hometown job or whether you're a super fan, what would that job be for you? Or you'd say, okay, bye, Tagna, bye.
Oh, wow. That is a really good question because everyone know, I'm an Albany State alum. That's where I got my skill sets from and all that good stuff, my knowledge about the game.
Check the jersey.
Right.
And I got a degree too. Yeah, I got a degree from there too for all you other haters out there, But yeah, if they called me tomorrow and said, Jarvis, we've been seeing what you've been doing. We're doing some things where we want to get the alum guys who shed those blood, sweat, and tears down there in Albany, Georgia. We want to give you a position, to be the defensive line coach. I slow down.
Coach. I knew he'd say D-line coach.
Yeah, I don't need to be in the spotlight, regardless of how y'all may feel. I don't got to be in the spotlight. My name don't got to be on the billboard and everything like that. Just give me a nice little position so I can just have me a small group of guys that I could just harness and teach and grow and get them going and everything like that, and I'll be good to go. But yeah, it'll have to be Albany State University calling me up and saying, you know what? We want to give you offer you the D-line coach position down here. We got an opening for you. Oh yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, bring me on in, coach. I'm ready.
Let's manifest it.
Maria, how about you? What's that super fan hometown type of job you'd love if given to you?
This is such a good question because I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. And so I grew up following all of the South Florida teams. Shout out to the Dolphins and the Heat and the Panthers, all of that stuff, and the Marlins. But I don't know because they don't carry the same weight that a lot of the Atlanta teams do, honestly, which is crazy. So I do like where I'm at in that regard. But I will say, I grew up an SEC kid. My parents were big Tennessee fans. My dad went there, graduated from the University of Veterinary Medicine there. And then I went to Ole Miss. I did the reverse Manning thing. And the SEC's been in my blood since I was a little kid. So coming home to me would be like the SEC network. Like I have just been involved in the SEC since I was born, and I'm a graduate of the University of Mississippi. I bleed the Southeastern Conference. And so I feel like that would be the most home place for me.
Yeah, I would probably have like a 1A and a 1B, but the 1A would be if the NFL network called and said, hey, we need someone to cover the AFC North. Say what? Put me on a plane to Pittsburgh. I don't care about the cold. I don't care about the steel meal and how boring it's probably going to be relative to Atlanta. I just sit there at the foot of Mike Tomlin every day for all the nuggets, all the one-liners, all the everything. Like, yeah, I'd lose my mind. And then I think the 1B would be if the ABC network called and said, hey, we need you to do two things because you have to do a qualifying job before you can get the big job. We need you to be a dancer on Dancing with the Stars. And then once you complete a season, then you can co-host. Bet. What?
I love that. That's awesome.
Because I think, Maria, you and I both are dancers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that would totally be.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And listen, we got to wrap on this one real quick. I know we got to run, but we're in Atlanta. So I got to tell you guys that the Waffle House workers said, no more. We ain't having it. We're not taking it. And they pulled up to corporate and said, we demand $25 an hour. I, as a Waffle House connoisseur, said, give them what they want. What do you guys say?
Wow. Yes, give it to them because you know what
Why
I'm
not?
tired of seeing. You know what I'm tired of seeing, T? Like, all this negativity. Everybody up here scrapping in Waffle Houses, fighting the employees because they so mad. You know why they upset?
That's right.
Because they're underpaid and overworked. Give them folks that bread because they deserve it. Because all the people who work at Waffle House, they work hard. They work long hours. Every time I have a conversation with the workers, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to get off. Like, I understand. You know what I'm doing? I'm extra tipping. That's because I feel for them. I understand what it feels like to be overworked and underpaid. So, yeah, give them folks that money, please. That's what I'm talking about in my west side of Atlanta dialect. Yes, give them folks their money.
Look, I'm not from Atlanta, but parts of me feel like I am because I'm so entrenched in the city. And if you're from here or you live here or you feel like you're a native of here, Waffle House is a rite of passage. It is a building that you walk through often and frequently. Yes. You better pay those people. It makes me so mad that they're upset. Look, it worked for the writer's strike. It's finally over. So why don't we strike the Waffle House employees and get them paid? I love it.
Get them folks that money.
Money, says the Waffle House people. And the Atlanta Sports Party is all for it. Listen, we appreciate you guys stopping by and support your local Waffle House. It's a good look. And of course, don't forget to support us all over the place at Locked On Sports. You can check us out on YouTube. You can subscribe. You can like. And of course, don't forget to come back Saturday when we are going to download on Locked On Hawks, the postcast. See you soon.